can control the music at all, but
All right, let's try this one.
do a sound check. Make sure.
Can we hear that?
Yeah.
All right. That's how you got to get started. You can't do a Wrestling with Rip Rogers live if you don't have big gold to kick it off. So we are kicking it off.
These cameras on here, bro.
Hey, how?
So swole
Make sure the people can hear you before I go right downstairs.
So I money fold and rubber band wrap. And when it pops.
We are rocking and rolling. All right.
You gotta turn that off.
Let me cut that off. Cut that off. All right, everybody. Wrestling with Rip Rogers live February 21st, 2025.
People can hear you, bro. Talk. Say, can you hear me?
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, 70QQ as always. Audio and video is good. Screaming Baboon can hear you both. We are definitely rocking and rolling here.
And the chat will go up as long as you leave it in here. That finger right there.
You can hear Von Lilas in the background.
You can, well,
on the ones and twos.
Text me if you need anything.
I will. All right. Rip.
Yo.
What's going on?
Well, you're the man, the myth, the legend. You're the man that comes on with no notice and just takes over the show and does whatever you want to. You pulled out, you shaved the top of your head close to give you more maturity, and you put that gray actually in your beard because you got too many young girls wanting the vet because they heard that you are the vet in anything. But anyway.
Right. Great looking gray. I found a box in the attic. Okay. So I did that. Yeah, I think last time I was the clean shaven one and you had the beard.
Yeah.
So now we have
it all off, and now I'll go a couple days and I'll shave. So I don't know what the hell I want. You know, when you're 71, you can't remember nothing anyway. What the hell, right?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I mean, you just turned 29.
Yeah.
The week before, I just happened to also turn 29. Mm-hmm. So, just got a couple of young men on here. I know you prefer a younger, more attractive man, but
yeah, I do. But
we work with what we got. And what do we got today? We are looking at the chat here. We've got Screaming Baboon, Manuel Valverde, George Jetson, George Lambert. We've got Italion. We've got Patrick Young. We've got Stephen Keys. We have got. That's pretty much everybody so far, but we're going to have a lot more. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today. Let's see. Anything going on in the wrestling world? No. Boring. So let's see. Von Lilas was kind enough to give me the opportunity to fill in for him. He's got some stuff to do. And here I am with you guys. So we got a question here. Patrick Young says, Vaughn isn't here. Let's talk about him and his most embarrassing moments. Well, I don't know about any of that. Rip, does Von Lilas regularly embarrass himself?
Well, when he used to have all these women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just know that when he'd leave, they couldn't walk for a few days. Oof. So I don't know if he sat on them or give him an atomic knee drop or whatever he did, but they was walking like they was in pain. So I don't know what he was doing, maybe he's famous for the Lilas hammer. I have no idea. I didn't check the shower like I used to do when I was at Shields Junior High in Seymour in the 9th grade. All the boys would be turning around, kayfabing their weenie. They'd get it all soaked up, so it'd be half fluff. So they didn't want to, because all the 9th grade girls, they was asking about, well, who's got the big ones, So I think Lilas, his was pretty legendary. It had good length, good width, good thickness, big veinage and everything, balls that hit the ground. So I think he was over.
I see. Yeah, Italion agrees. Somehow he knows that Vaughn got a hog on him. Wonder if Vaughn has a machine. I wonder if Vaughn like Robert Fuller. I don't know if anybody's like Robert Fuller.
Robert Fuller was legendary. He'd be sitting that thing and just twisting it and going. And then Robert was the first guy I'd seen. Like we'd worked when we was working for Fuller in Southeastern or Continental. We'd spend the night or it was Southeastern, and we'd go to we'd work a spot show and then go to Dothan. And Robert would have the room there, and he would actually have the girls lined up outside his room. And through the door, you'd hear, "Next." So Robert, now Ron and Robert were brothers, the Fullers, and usually Ron would book and then Robert would book. Now, when Ron would book, it was more serious, and then but you made a whole lot more money. When Robert booked, you had such a good time. And I remember one time we had the hour and 12-minute show. He had some stuff he wanted to do. So the show lasted an hour and 12 minutes. So that's like the record low. He didn't know that Big Brother was sitting there at the top. Then he had his cowboy boots on and his big old cowboy hat. And he was about 7 foot tall then. He said, Robert, are usually these matches, in other words, he was getting on Robert. Robert said, well, I had some stuff to do. So all of a sudden, Robert was used in a different capacity and Ron went back to booking again.
I think a lot of fans, modern fans certainly, but even like previous generation of fans, I'm not sure that a lot of them are aware of just the impact and influence that the Welch family had. I mean, they basically are responsible for an entire like style of wrestling, like what we call the old Tennessee bullshit or whatever. Like, isn't that all just because of the psychology and everything that like Roy Welch and everybody, like, isn't that all because of that? Didn't it all stem from that?
Well, they had their hand in everything down south, from Florida up to Knoxville, etc. And if a lot of times they would just, and most of the old guys, they were the shooters, so they just go in and run the other companies out.
Yeah.
This was when they was talking about was wrestling was sort of like the mafia. Hey, you saw Screaming Baboon. Can you see that question from Screaming Baboon?
I sure can. He says, Rip, I watched you and Buddy Landell in WCW. Good match. You did 2 moves I've never seen. Buddy caught your kick and you turned it into a DDT. And Buddy was on the floor and you did a headbutt from the apron to the back of his head when he was facing away. Great stuff, Rip. And you were ripped. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Screaming Baboon, for the $10 so far here. Well, maybe 15.
I don't know what it is. I think it's $5. It says Screaming Baboon.
Well, he had 2 messages. He has 2 messages, so I was thinking they split it up.
I have no idea.
But he's basically just putting you over. I don't see a question there.
Yeah, well, Buddy, he got in the business when he was like 19, and he stayed with me and Randy Savage. He stayed with us a while when we was living in a building. We was going to fix up for to have wrestling there in Lexington every week. And then me and Randy was going to live there. But what happened? It was going to cost $50,000 just to do some new wiring and shit. So Miser said, "Poop on that." So we didn't do that. But Buddy lived with me and Randy for a while. And I remember one weekend, Debbie Combs was there and Donna Day. And all of a sudden I heard Donna Day going, Buddy, where are you, buddy? Come back, buddy. And there was Buddy crawling on the floor. He was trying to get away from her. I guess you wore him out. But hey, Rip says, you want that? I said, But anyway, just another day in the life of pro wrestlers. Nothing like it at all. At least that's the way it used to be.
Yeah, it used to be. They don't get up to much these days, so I hear. Here's a question for George Lambert. Any stories on Hussein Arab?
Well, which one was Hussein Arab, was that Sheik, or was that Billy White Wolf when he was doing the Russian gimmick? Because everybody changed his name and stuff, and he was doing stuff in certain territories and that. But I don't. But I thought Sheik was at one time was Hussein Arab or whatever. So anyway, I'm gonna answer it like it was Iron Sheik. If it was the Iron Sheik, it was saying the Iron Sheik. If it was Billy White Wolf playing Hussein Arab, because I can't remember all that shit.
Well, George, if you're still listening, maybe you can clarify. Yeah, you could tell us which one that you meant.
But anyway, I'm gonna go with the Sheiky baby story anyway, because it's I was running. We did 3 shows in Seymour. I'd be on the road and I'd come home every year for Christmas time. And Vaughn Lilas's dad always helped me promote the thing and everything. And we had over 1,000 people in each show. So, and I asked anybody else, you ever said any independent thing doing 1,000 people? They said no. Well, I had 3 of them in a row. But when I had the King, Lilas's dad, he was just a little kid, and we was running the big old Seymour High School. Of course, my sister worked for the mayor, and my brother-in-law, he had his own TV show doing something. So we had all the free publicity. So I had didn't cost no money. And then when you have the local papers like the Seymour Tribune and the Sports Writer doing interviews and stuff like that and putting in the paper. So it was happening. When you could have 1,000 people, then I go out on the so-called, George just popped up. He said, Sheiky baby. Yeah. So anyway, on the third show in Seymour, I had Ronnie Garvin. He was coming in from Charlotte. He flew his own plane. I said, what do you want to do, Ronnie? He said, let me fly in, and then I'll just, I said, well, whatever the plane flight would have been, I just paid him that for his trans. And then Sheik baby come in. Now Sheik had been working, he worked like 3 different shows, and it was supposed, now this is the way the wrestling business is. It was supposed to be, the Sheik was working for the Wild Samoans in upstate New York or whatever. So they got him there. He worked that. Then he flew into Seymour. Then he was forced to fly back to Atlanta. So they were supposed to pay half the ticket and send the money with the Sheik. So do you think that happened? Sheik said, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So either Sheik pocketed it. They didn't give it to him. So then the Sheik, I'm picking him up at the airport. He goes, Rip, baby, where's my hotel? I said, shit, Sheik, I don't know. I ain't babysitting you. I'm giving your money. He goes, so I get back on the plane. I said, well, get your lazy ass back on there. Nobody gives a shit about you, you old bastard. I'll work twice. Me and Garvin will steal the show, anybody, and I'll just save all that money. Or, and that's the way he goes, oh, but Rip, baby, you know, I was just ribbing you. Ha, ha, ha. So then we're in the high school. We got 1,000 people there, and most of them are kids. So he gets color. I said, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you getting color? Oh, I thought I would liven the show up. I said, Sheik, I'm not paying you to think. Just do your gimmick, be the Iron Sheik, ha, 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 and get the hell out of there. But anyway, that was just a thing with, as George said, Hussein Arab, or the Sheik, or whatever. So just another day in the life of the Iron Sheik. So Sheiky baby, he actually made it to Seymour, Indiana, got in and out, didn't get hurt. He was over. Of course, he was trying to get marijuana from every fan there was. So I just shook my head. But what the hell? That's Sheiky baby. When you're with the Sheiky baby, you sort of got to cover both ends, and you're getting a real character. And probably nobody in the world of professional wrestling, but if you know, he was actually an assistant wrestling coach for the United States Olympic team. He was such a good amateur. But he was said, as he would say, I was Olympic champion. I said, no, you wasn't. Don't be talking that shit. He goes, well, kayfabe that then. Oh, what a gimmick he was.
Well, on the subject of kayfabe that, did you know Rocky Johnson?
Oh, I knew Rocky.
Was he sketchy?
I don't know about he's sketchy, but Rocky was the epitome of a pro wrestler. Anything that come out of his mouth was not the truth. Now you could have a hell of a time with him. He was great, but he could tell the greatest stories. And you don't ask if they're true or not. When you just want to be entertained. And he was down there. I think he lasted a couple of weeks with me at OVW. Then he got in trouble for let's just say propositioning the girl or what, but what the hell, right? Rocky was a man, he was jacked, and he was asking everybody there if they wanted steroids and asking everybody there where he could get more at. So I said, God damn, Rock, you're a hell of a gimmick. He goes, I am. Then he would strut down with the lats out and everything. So the Rocky was over with me.
Rocky's over. Cold-blooded's over with the super sticker. Thank you. He's not so cold-blooded after all. He's definitely a warm-blooded person. William Lynn, another $5. Thank you very much, William Lynn, and a special $5 super from this very own channel. I wonder who's asking this question. Who is Rip's favorite wrestler in the Army of Two? Now, you only got two choices.
Well, I either got you or Zeus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got I like the way you guys would take that back and flip around and do the salute and everything. So I'm gonna have to give this a tie.
A tie.
Because if I would say Zeus, you would be mad, and if I'd say you, Zeus would be mad. Then he could call me a racist or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows I don't have nothing to do with white people anyway. So what the hell, right?
That's true. Yeah,
Well, you know how it is.
definitely. He would definitely. Yes, it was a wonderful, wonderful gimmick. Let's see what.
Now, who
else?
thought that up? Did you think that up, or did Zeus think that up?
It was. I know. Not to be diplomatic, this is actually true. It was definitely a collaborative effort. We didn't do like a lot of road traveling like you guys did, but like we did spend a lot of time in the car going from place to place, hanging out. We hung out outside of, practice and stuff. And we would think of ideas all the time when we were trying to find out if there was anything worth a damn to do in that town. So we drive around to the malls, the movie theaters, just whatever. And we're thinking about what if we did this? What if we did that? We actually had some crazy ideas that we never got to do. Rip, I never told you this. One thing that we were going to try to do is we were going to go to like a military surplus store and get one of those like the dud hand grenades.
Oh, awesome.
And we were going to throw that in the ring and have everybody clear out, like that as a spot. Just shit like that. But we didn't get to that stage, but we thought about all that kind of stuff, and we came up with like some of us. I don't remember who came up with the look, the music, all that stuff. We just talked about it and kind of put it all together.
I just knew the Army of Two, they was over. After the spin around and the salute, the match went down from there. But what the hell, right? We're just starting out, having a good time, learning.
And it went up at the end too when I got beat. That was the other good part, Well,
Zeus
I almost won.
Zeus wasn't going to do no job. I'm surprised. Well, would he browbeat you that much?
No, I made sure of that. We're off in the weeds here. Everybody's like, what? But I definitely, as soon as I saw the way the show was going and the way things were working, I was like, okay, I better do all these jobs because the people love Zeus and they hate me. So I'm like, if he ever turns out of this gimmick, like I have to make sure that he doesn't lose. So I made sure I did all the jobs, and it worked out because when he did the Debo thing, everybody got behind him with that too. So it ended up working out. But here's something else that William Lynn wants to know if it worked out. In your early 90s WCW time, who on the booking committee was in your corner? And who was not? You deserved much better, sir. Okay, so you got there and Ole was booking, right? When you got there? And then did it switch to Dusty after that?
I think it was Watts. When I was with Ole, right. I loved Ole. And then, Ole made me and Ted Oates the transition national tag team champions. And then when we would go up north on those tours, a lot of times I would, it would be me and Ole in the car. We'd fly in and get a rent-a-car. And then when Crockett bought in, then Baltimore was his all of a sudden, and like Richmond and stuff. So he'd say, "Come on, we're getting off the tour. We're going to go with Crockett's," and he sent us plane tickets, but we're going to drive there and cash them in. And at the time, you could still do that. And then Ole said, "Just sit there, and I'll arrange everything." So we get draws, this or that, whatever, blah blah blah, and we'll just have a good time and a vacation, because Ole didn't want to stress about the other tour that he was supposed to be the boss of, but he wanted to get the hell out of there and have a good time. Because Ole was over in his savage way with a lot of rats. Didn't get any better than that. All the secrets coming out here.
That's right. Well, you know, it's. I think the statute of limitations has passed. We can now declassify some of this stuff.
Ole's been dead for a while. And then when Bill Watts was there, hell, I worked for Bill Watts in Mid-South in '83.
No, wait a minute. Bill Watts still alive, so you know.
No, I'm just saying I worked for him, and I made more money underneath than working semi and on top some places, with just because Watts, he was one of the first guys that had the expensive ticket prices, and he was such a good promoter. Now, what it was in the old days, it would be like Watts ran Mid-South, but Fritz had a little bit of it, Ole had a little bit of it, and it's like before. Like when Eddie Graham was still alive, a lot of guys, all the Southern promoters, they would have like a 5 or 10% interest in Atlanta, in Tampa, in like Southeastern, in Oklahoma, and in Mid-South, so that you all, if Ole had a big show, he would send some of the guys from his TV, etc., to the other places, so they would gross more, because you was going to get a dividend check out of that anyway. So that was like the mafia taking care of theirs. But at the time, this was wrestlers were the owners. Wrestlers controlled the booking or whatever, and it was wrestlers. It wasn't businessmen. It wasn't people that didn't know anything about the wrestling business. These are guys that had paid their dues and had done the miles themselves. They knew what they were getting into. They knew how to control people. If a lot of times, if guys got into it, they'd say, "Well, let's go in the other room and fight." Then nobody wanted to fight, but it was a different day. It was like the wild, wild west then. And Bill Watts, he was firm but fair. He'd just tell you what he wanted, and if you couldn't do it, he'd get somebody that would. If he'd say, "I don't want any high spots out there," you didn't do any high spots. He obviously knew what he was doing, and he knew what in his brain what was going to be 2 months from there, 6 months from there, up to a year away, unless somebody got drunk or did something stupid, and you'd have to fire him all the time. He didn't want to fire you. He just wanted you to do what you're told, work hard, and if something seemed a little bit wacky, 6 weeks later, you would find out why you did that. It's not, you don't have to know the whole book. You're just doing the next chapter. But to me, Bill Watts was a god, just like Ole. They were older, they were hardcore, they were tough guys, and that's when wrestling was wrestling. But that's another story for today. Anyway.
All right. So now, Hezza Machine wants to know, is there anyone else that you helped get a job in WCW like you did with Regal? Probably, right?
Oh, my God. When I got Regal in, he got Fit Finlay in. Mm-hmm. When I got Regal in, he got Dave Taylor in. Mm-hmm. So with me getting Regal in and then and Max Payne in there, and it's everything in the wrestling business is all who you know. So I ran with those guys when we was in Austria and Germany, and hung out every day. And then me and Regal lived in the same caravan. He was Mr. Fix It Up and Mr. Clean, and I was the world's biggest pig. But no,
it's an odd couple.
You didn't. Anyway, whatever we was talking about.
Yeah, we were just talking about getting people a job.
Yeah, I'm sitting there looking at things on the right and looking at all this stuff. paying customers, et cetera, and stuff like that. That's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to make a little money.
That's right. Let's get some money in here. Now you got Regal a job. He detailed that in his book and everything like that. But there's other people, like I think you pointed them in a direction, like such as Lex Luger, I believe you said in the past, and some other guys like that, right? Too?
Yeah, Flexi Lexi was I was working for Wahoo in Tampa. Wahoo was the booker, and he walked up to me in Rick Poston's gym in Tampa, Florida. This is all by memory now. He goes, Mr. Rogers, how do I get in the wrestling business? I just got cut by the Tampa Bay Bandits in the USFL. I said, you go down to 106 North Albany, you go talk to Hiro Matsuda and do whatever he says, and he'll make you a wrestler. So he did that, and I think he was the first guy that was that got a guaranteed contract. So when he started out, he was a shits like everybody else. He had that great look, that great body. He was very athletic. But get your 1,000 matches in, and then you'll be pretty good. And at that time, you could have 350 matches a year, and you learned all the tricks of the trade. You know how to work when you had a hurt leg. You know how to take care of your opponents. You knew you did your big moves on TV to where you could potentially get hurt. And in the house shows, it was more walk and talk. So you had to save your body because you was pretty much working every day. I remember once for Watts, I worked 10 different shows in a week. So you gotta learn it. And we drove like truck drivers too. And it was the time of your life. And if they had cell phones then, oh my God. And if you could have taped all that stuff and videoed all that stuff, well, we'd all be in jail. But anyway, whatever we was talking about, I'm trying to see here.
Yeah, Lex Luger. But just
thing about Lex, and he never come out of his way to say, "Oh, when I asked you, I know you could have kayfabed me and just ignored me, or I could have given him a bum steer." But I took care of him. He made a lot of money. He became a legend. And then not once did he ever thank me for it.
Well,
so anyway.
Well, he's had it rough. So, everybody be careful how you treat people on the way up and on the way down.
Yeah.
Screaming Baboon, did you ever wrestle any of the super shooters like Jack Briscoe, Billy Robinson, Danny Hodge, Baron Von Raschke?
Let me see. Jack Briscoe, no. Billy Robinson, yes. Danny Hodge, no. Baron Von Raschke, no. That would have been when I was starting out. And I worked Billy Robinson when I was wrestling. When I started out, I worked some WWF, Oak Hill, West Virginia, and I wasn't even smart. Then Dick the Bruiser and the Sheik, and I worked Billy Robinson when I was working for the Sheik. And hell, I had a picture taken with him, but it went on. When my basement got flooded, it was gone too. But I had a picture with me and Billy Robinson. And so he was just dominating me, and I'm thinking, how am I supposed to get heat on him? So he gives me the Billy Robinson inside backbreaker, and he hurts his knee. Oh. And then I go, "Oh, you're hurt." He goes, "Get on me, please." Oh, he must have did that on purpose because I was so fucking rotten, right? So I just kicked the shit out of him to what I was, and then he ended up beating me with I missed something, and he got some kind of submission on me and beat me. But you talk about the highs of the business is Billy Robinson. The lows of the business, I was below the lows, but I was actually in there with him. And you learn something every match, what to do or what not to do. But Billy Robinson, he was one of the greatest. He was one of the shooters, and he had that gimmick eye. He had the glass eye because The Rock's grandpa, Peter Maivia, he pulled it out in a fight or something like that. You don't want to get those Samoans mad. That's for damn sure. They whoop your ass, bite your nose off, or rip your eye out, and they'll fight you to the death. So no, thank you.
Yeah. Well, Interesting. So here's an interesting question. Visvex wants to know any stories of the pizza guy that used to dress like Randy Savage at Mike's Samples?
Oh yeah, when they used to, Mike Sample used to run in Indianapolis every Thursday night, and at the time I was working 5 times a week, working weekly towns. Uh, one, and Thursday night was Indianapolis, and he ran. Yeah, he was a sponsor. He was a sponsor for the at Mike Samples, which we was up there, and he was a big Randy Savage fan. So I get free pizza from him. He was a nice guy. He was just a wrestling fan. He just loved pro wrestling. I can't get mad at somebody because they love pro wrestling. He was respectful to everybody. He'd get everybody, there'd be pizzas there at the end of the night. So I'd be taking me a couple boxes, this and that. So that was awesome. It was great pizza, and it was just an hour ride for me because I was living in Seymour then. Would come up and work the big Thursday night spectaculars there in Indianapolis, get pizza, get paid, go home, and just another day in the life of pro wrestling.
Sounds good. I wish I had a pizza right now. Rip, did
Yeah,
you ever
no.
work with Kurt Hennig? And if so, how was the match and what'd you think of his work?
Um,
Well, he was obviously the shits, right? Kurt Hennig. Everybody said so, so he must have been, right?
well, at the time, me and Kurt were never. Kurt basically broke in Minneapolis, and then of course his son's a wrestler and his dad was a wrestler, so he would have been so of everybody, and he would be doing stuff just as a rib, just to entertain himself.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, he was there. Mentally, he was there. Everything was a rib. Have a good time. Took crazy ass fucking bumps. Loved what he was doing. Loved that he was a wrestler. What a childhood he much had. But then, when your dad's a wrestler and you're in the dressing room when you're probably 10 years old and you're with all these stars and you're not intimidated because hell, that's uncle this guy or uncle that guy, or I call that guy my cousin or whatever like that. And you're just another one of the boys. You probably start drinking when you're about 12 years old, when somebody would slip you one or whatever, just so his dad would get mad. But he was one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of pro wrestling. He was really, really good.
But no match.
No, I didn't.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It just seemed like you just would have missed each other at different points in time.
I'm older than him. I would have just told him shut up. If I was a heel, I said just shut up and listen. I know what you can do, and that would be it.
He would have done it.
Huh? Yeah.
I said he would have done that. Yeah.
And it's not if I'm going to work babyface, I'll just shut up. You know what I can do. If there's something I can't do, I'll tell you. When you call it. And I said, no, let's do something else very good. Because the main thing is to get in, get out, don't get hurt, and don't make each other look stupid. But then again, a lot of times I would have matches that we were supposed to make each other. We kept, nothing was smooth. Mm-hmm. Nothing was, how today is everything's perfect. So if everything is perfect, it's fucking phony.
Yes.
I want to. You don't have a pancake block in the NFL. Everybody don't hit a home run every time they're playing baseball. You don't hit your threes all the time, and half the time, well, you're traveling. They don't call traveling anymore anyway. But you want to make it look like yours is a struggle before somebody all of a sudden getting an arm works. The other things didn't work. All of a sudden. Getting your heat, all of a sudden he starts countering it, so he hurts himself, and then you start on something else. But that's the stuff that when you've had thousands and thousands of matches, you see the picture right there. If something happens, they say, "Oh, they did that. We was going to do that." I said, "No, I wasn't going to call that shit anyway. I'm going to wait and see the match. I'm going to see what everybody's done, and what we might do." Whatever their finish was, we might do that as a false finish because people have seen that as a finish and they will buy it more. Yes. But the part of psychology of wrestling is just so hard. And I tell everybody, hey, have 1,000 matches. And if you're 22, try and work with a guy that's 40, because he knows the tricks of the trade. But this was back in when everybody worked pretty much every day. And you would know that this and you go to different territories to meet different people, because anytime you meet somebody, hell, you might. I remember working with Scotty McGee, and then 10 years later, I see him in another territory. And I say, "Hey, how does it go, Scotty?" And we go right back to 10 years ago, what we was talking about, what the finishes were, who the rats were, and whatever, and stuff like that.
George Lambert with the $2. Whatever happened to Road Warrior Rip?
He died.
Oh, I assume he's. I thought he was referring to your tag team match with where you were. What was that, Battle Bowl, where you were partners with Hawk or something like that?
Yeah, he died. So yeah. Anyway, they got some video game out, and George sent it to me, and I watched it, and I just started fucking laughing, because all of a sudden I step over the top rope, right? And all of a sudden I'm not doing anything I would usually do, and it was just a rugged wrestler. But it was me and Hawk against Davey Boy Smith and somebody. But it was, they made me look a whole lot better than I was. My hair was way down to here. But I was over. When I stepped over the top rope, I said, "Damn, look at that shit." If I'd try and get in the bottom rope, my big nutsack would be dragging that thing anyway.
Now here's the same question earlier, but just want to acknowledge Screaming Baboon's extra $5 because he thought I missed it, but I did not miss it. I do not miss things. I only selectively choose how and when and which questions to ask, because some of these questions that you guys ask, I already know what the answer is going to be, if there's even going to be an answer. So don't worry about it. I got you guys covered.
Okay, Gary Albright. Now, Gary Albright was an NCAA All-American. I think he was from Nebraska. Mm-hmm. And I was with him where he was just sort of like training. He weighed 338. He was just so big, so strong, so powerful. And he was an NCAA All-American. And was I scared of him? No, I knew what he could do. And he wasn't going to hurt me. As a matter of fact, when guys are big shooters and when they're starting out, if they get a reputation for hurting people, they'll tell the promoter, said, "No, he's dangerous. He might hurt somebody." And the promoter, he don't want to put up with that.
Right.
So now Gary was pretty wild. And then let's see, I was with him in Calgary, and I was with him somewhere else. The next time I see him, he had a big scar on his face where Gary would get drunk and sort of belligerent and sort of bully people, but we always had a good time. Mm-hmm. And somebody knifed him. I think he was married to one of Afa and Sika's daughters years ago. But Gary, he was nothing but fun. We had some good times. We had some times that that we shouldn't be talking about on here, but anyway, so we won't. But Screaming Baboon, we talked about. No, I didn't wrestle Jack Briscoe. Did wrestle Billy Robinson. No, Danny Hodge. Baron von Raschke. Baron von Raschke was the lead heel for Dick the Bruiser when I was a fan growing up. So it didn't get better than that, doing the goose step. And then you see him talk normal. And then he was an All-American wrestler at Nebraska too. So a lot of those shooters get in there, and they're the badasses. And
now Raschke was a shooter, but did he ever? I only ever saw him do the other gimmick. Did he ever have like a shooter gimmick when he was starting out or anything? Or was that just a background?
I think that was just his background, that he was Baron von Raschke, and he'd do the claw. That is all they need to know. So, yes. And then the greatest thing about the claw is it's the world's greatest finish hold, because you can do it to anybody. You don't get hurt. They don't get hurt. And what a rib it is.
Yep.
But it's fantastic.
Fantastic. And here's a fantastic question from Patrick Young. What's the most satisfying part of being a coach other than the checks?
No, when you take these people, when guys come into wrestling school, they think they know a little bit. They're
Mhm.
fucking retarded. And I had some guys that I taught 9 and 10 years. And you guys got so good because what a competition it was, and see who could outshine each other, who could sell the best, who could do all this stuff. And you went through it every day. You could work babyface, you could work heel. How many guys had to do hours? You know what I mean? And I used to take Mondo with me to different seminars, and I'd have him work with Deanna Perrazzo, but I'd say, okay, who's the best 2 wrestlers here? And they'd hold up their hand. I said, well, get in the ring and go. But I said, no, butts, get in the ring and go, and give me a finish. There'd be 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, and then they wouldn't know what to do. Then I'd have Damian Adams work with Deanna, who he trained, and he's the best girls trainer there is. He's had all these girls get in WWE, and they actually got heat because they're hot, they're athletic, and they can work better than all the girls on contract. So, and if you're hot and you can work, every girl hates you, and they're going to band together with the other enemies to bury your ass so that they won't use you because you make them all look bad. But that's women wrestling. Same with fucking guys, but women are just worse, whatever.
Yeah, that's true. And Damian Adams was good. I worked Damian Adams. I believe I lost. I almost had him though.
You came in second.
I came in second, and it was a close second.
What was you had the silver? You got the silver medal in that match.
That's right. George Lambert says, what was the greatest main event in history, in your opinion? So I guess we're just thinking these big matches. You've seen a lot. You've heard of a lot. That's a lot of people go with Hogan Andre just because.
Okay, no, here's the thing. Before Hogan Andre, Savage went in the ring with Ricky Steamboat, and they had that scripted match. And first of all, never in my life I learned from Randy. I never fucking scripted a match in my goddamn life. Right. Now all of a sudden he does this, and he's nuts anyway. So they had that great up and down high spot match. So now Hogan's coming out with Andre. Now we've seen all that shit, which was great. Now the whole thing is Hogan wants to slam Andre. So just total different psychology. If you're a fan, you're reacting, you're cheering, you're booing, completely different because it's a totally different. That's like facing a Nolan Ryan fastball pitcher or a Hoyt Wilhelm throwing a knuckleball. It's just totally opposite. But any Savage and Garvin match that would go an hour they were really better because they worked snug. They beat the shit out of each other. They get the double juice, this and that, and they controlled that goddamn audience. And when you got in the ring with Garvin, he never said a word except he might say double knockout with that French Canadian accent, and that was it. And you watch a Savage Garvin match when they was ICW, and you go, oh my God. And then you see the matches on TV now, and it's bad to be in the business because when a product is not really good. But if people are used to seeing today's standard is not very high, and before you'd work 10 years in the territories, and then you might get a job with WWE, but you've had 3,000 matches. And you've went 6 months to a year at all these different territories, and each one's got a little bit extra, a different style. You like work the old WWF. You like work for Vern Gagne in the AWA. You go down to work for Eddie Graham in Tampa. You would work for Ron Fuller in Pensacola. Hell, in Tennessee, you'd have Jerry Jarrett and Nick Goulas and Ron Fuller working the territory in Knoxville, the territory in Nashville, the territory in Memphis. Then you had Dick the Bruiser, and you had the Sheik, and you had Watts, and you had George Culkin, and you had Fritz von Erich, then you had Dory Funk Sr. in Amarillo. Then on the West Coast, you had Mike LaBelle in Los Angeles. You had Roy Shires in San Francisco, going up to Portland, Oregon, and then going up to Gene Kaniski in Canada, floating over to the east, and you got Stu Hart. And then you work for Montreal, and then you could work for Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and that was Rene Dupre's dad, which was Grand Prix Wrestling, and and then it was World Grand Prix Wrestling later. But I worked 4 summers there, and in '89 I was supposed to go too, but then Carlos Colon called me up and wanted me to be the booker in Puerto Rico, so I went there for 9 months. And then in a couple of years, I didn't even work in the States. I worked in England, Austria, Germany, South Africa, Korea, Japan, and whatever, and in Puerto Rico and Trinidad and the Bahamas. So for 2 years, I didn't even wrestle in the States. So you can imagine because what you're doing is sometimes you're working in a 16-foot ring, sometimes a 14-foot ring, sometimes a 24-foot ring that's a boxing ring with big old thick ropes. Or sometime you'd go into a ring and the turnbuckles wouldn't be there, and you'd have a big thick rope, and you'd have a cable rope, and then you have like a piece of string on the bottom. And you had to know how to have a match with no matter, and then you'd work with guys that didn't speak any English. So you had to know how to wrestle and how to work. See, the thing about today is guys grow up, and if you're in OVW, if you're in AEW, you just wrestle the guys in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in WWE, you just wrestle the guys in WWE. They're starting to float out a little bit now with including TNA guys or whatever they call it, this and that. But you'll never see guys as good. The guys today, they can do everything athletically, but their minds is what it's all about.
Well, yeah, because they're all working the same. Even though they're going and traveling around to different places, they may go all those places you said, but they still have the same match everywhere they go. They're not trying to do anything different. And, that's the other thing too. Like, what would they do? What will Ospreay do if he had to have a match in a ring with no ropes? Like, he wouldn't be able to do that. So, I think it's easier when you have those limitations like you're talking about, because you can just pretend like the shit is somewhat half-ass real. And then you can work your match according to that and you can improvise. But if they have to plan out their whole 20 minutes and then one thing goes wrong, the 20 minutes falls apart.
Yeah, that's I remember working one of Bobby Fulton's shows. I used to work all of Bobby Fulton's fair shows, and something with the ring. To make a long story short, we was wrestling in a parking lot. It was a botch show or whatever, right? But there was no ropes. So I'd have just a long match with, I can't remember who it was. And as a rib, we did the crisscross, the invisible lean. Bobby said, "God damn," and Bobby didn't cuss. But that was a hell of a rib. So you got to have fun when you're there, and if you're going to work and I've been in some rings. You're walking around and you're almost tripping all the times because the boards are out and everything. And you can hurt yourself and ruin your career working in a shitty ring. So you got to check each turnbuckle. Hell, there might be blades sticking out. There might be wires sticking out. You got to check the ropes. You got to check all the boards so you don't twist your knee, break your ankle, strain your thigh. I remember I tore my quad in one ring just getting up. And I said, "Oh, I think I tore my quad." And I did. Well, I was working. Yeah. I was working with Regal. Went to the ring. Somebody had thrown, this was in England. Some guy threw a beer on the ground. I slipped and caught myself. Pop. I said, "Fuck." and my quad's still torn right now. It still looks like a fucking golf ball rolled up there. But Regal said, I think you tore your quad. I said, yeah. He goes, and I said, well, he goes, what do you want to do? They're saying this during instructions, right? I said, don't worry. We'll just do song and dance. We'll just ad lib and have a good time. So we'd have given him a totally comedy match, which was great because the other matches, they were hardcore, right? But we wasn't. We was totally phony. But the pay was the same. So what the hell, right? Just another day in the life of.
Just another day. And that George Lambert was the greatest main event in history. Screaming Baboons, I got a question for me. Hey, $2 for me. Did you ever get caned by Rip, get the F out? Actually, no. Rip never rang the bell on me. Rip never caned me. I never puked during practice. I broke my wrist in practice and just shook it off and continued. So no, actually, I was one of the perfect students.
But you did see a lot of me hitting the ring and caning people, right?
I think that was a little. You actually doing the caning was before my time. Okay. I think you had cronies cane people for you when I was there.
Okay. Well, crony wouldn't hit you as hard. I'd knock the shit out of you. And I think what happened, I think that was Flash's cane or whatever the hell you call it. And I think I'd hit so many people too hard with it, and it was sort of crumbling and everything. But anyway.
No, I was a perfect student. So just for never question me. Let's see what else we got here. We got a lot of comments. I'll throw this one up there while I double check everything. Shane Parks wants to know, what did you think about Manny Fernandez and Rick Rude being tag champs in WCW?
Well, I didn't think nothing about it. They're just that ain't my job.
Exactly.
If somebody wants to push you, that's if Ole wants you the champions. That's like when he pushed the Road Warriors. My God, I was sitting at home watching it on TV, and I said, "That's real." And they were just big old steroid guys, stronger than shit, and they had no finesse at all. Now, years later, they weren't as bad to work with, but the first 3 years probably was quite a learning curve, and they had to pick but they would just press slam you anyway, just really throw you out of the ring. When they shoved you off, they would shove you off. When they would hit you with these big forearms, I said, oh no, call the police. Attempted murder. But yeah, well, Rick Rude, were they baby faces or heels? I have no idea, because both of them could work both. And Manny Fernandez, Manny was one of the greatest storytellers in the world too. So anybody that he come out of the Amarillo territory with Dory Funk, Terry Funk, all the guys from there. Anybody, Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, Tully Blanchard, all the guys that played football on that team. They had a shitty football team, but they were all pro wrestling stars. And Ted DiBiase, but all these guys went to the same college. Playing her on the football team. There's Bruiser Brody on the football team. There's Stan Hansen on the football team. There's Ted DiBiase on the football. There's Tito Santana on the football team. There's Manny Fernandez on the football team. Dusty said he was on the football team, but that was a pork pie. That was a lie. But everybody there knew the business. Everybody there were great athletes, but maybe they was too busy thinking about wrestling and hitting on the biatches, and they didn't do much football playing. But they had a shitty team, but it was a legendary team, you know. Let's just say a tackle, Bruiser Brody, Frank Good. And can you imagine going through that shit years later, thinking all these great professional wrestlers, they all played football there. This was at West Texas State, which was in Amarillo, which was Dory Funk, which was Terry Funk, and Dory Funk Jr.'s father, he had the territory out there for years and years and years. And if you come out of there, you knew how to work. You knew, as Ernie Ladd would say, you knew how to manipulate. Babyface a heel. You knew what the Rogers, you know what the who's the best heel you ever seen? You, Ernie. Rogers, who's the best babyface you ever seen, Ernie? You, Ernie. That's why I love that Rogers. He knows what's going on.
Who was the guy that said he went to West Texas and never did? Was it Dick Slater or Dick Murdoch or somebody named Dick? Somebody
yeah,
claimed
Dick
that.
Murdoch. Yeah,
Was it Dick Murdoch? Okay.
He was included always as a that he really went there. But his dad was a wrestler, see, so he already knew how to bullshit and lie ahead of time. So he knew all that shit. As a matter of fact, I was working with him in St. Louis. He hit me so hard I thought I broke my jaw. So I about 20 years later, I asked him about it. He goes, hell, Rip, I remember that. I said, you do? I said, I had black hair and an afro. He goes, well, hell, I remembered I tatered you because you tatered me. And I said, I didn't throw no punches. He goes, well, you probably got mixed up. And the way I said it happened, and you just don't remember right, it was so long ago. I said, well, I'll buy that. So he just fucking laughed as he took his teeth out.
Patrick Young says, during your coaching, what would you tell the boys about diet and workout? Did you give nutrition advice? Oh, I can answer at least some of that. I mean, I remember hearing the old, you don't eat fat, you won't get fat.
Yeah.
If you can eat a candy bar, you can eat an apple, and other such wisdoms like that. But yeah, it would just come in. You didn't lecture anybody. You just kind of would throw it out there here and there to whoever needed to hear it at the time.
Right. Now, basically, the reason is if you want to sell yourself, they want you looking like Mr. Universe if possible, which you're not going to. But you have that work ethic. If you watch what you eat, if you train all the time, if you practice being in the ring all the time with guys better than you, you're going to get good. And I don't want you binge dieting. I want you to change your eating habits. I remember I didn't eat any red meat for 3 years. Then I had a Wendy's burger loaded. Oh my God. I was sitting there from just a Wendy's burger, right? That was so good. But I did my time, but I got in 12 physique contests. So that's a little bit different. So when you're wrestling every day, training every day, and getting in bodybuilding contests, I won 2 with no steroids, which is impossible. You just had to be a fucking nut. And I was a nut, but this is your chance to be a nut too. And 99.9 take steroids now, but all the guys that took them, they're all dead now. They don't live long. They all have heart attacks, which we're all going to croak anyway. I'm 71. And, but I got real good blood pressure and everything, but all of a sudden, whatever, but diet, change your eating habits because you're going to live longer. Of course, if you're like me, you don't give a shit right now. Say, oh, if I die tomorrow, who gives a shit? What the fuck? Did what I wanted to do. So 6 to 60, blind, crippled, or crazy. If you eat right, if you train right, you're going to have a better life. Because bitches don't, well, I mean, if you got a lot of money, they want you. But if you ain't got no money, and I ain't got no goddamn money, you got to talk some shit. Talk some shit and have something when you're 71 motherfucking years old. Fucking clean. Jesus Christ. What a Rogers, you're the greatest of all time. Thank you, Ernie.
That's yes. Yes. That's the other thing I remember hearing a lot as Rip was walking around. As long as you got abs and a vein in the bicep, you're okay.
Yeah. And it's hard to get those abs, but if you eat right, half-ass train, you're going to look good, especially if you're in your 20s, right? If you're 20s, hell, if you just eat right and don't train at all, you still look great because you're in your 20s, because you got that boom, boom, that body's just burning all those calories, just burning all that fat and everything. Anyway.
Yeah. Let's see. Did you ever get hit with the green mist? Or any mist?
Look, yes, I got hit with the green mist. I was working for WWF. It was, I think it was Allentown, and George. I worked with George Animal Steel. I was working with George Animal Steel, and he had the green mist, and he hit me with it. Then he put me in the hammerlock, and I gave up. And it was funny because at the time I was teaching school. This buddy of mine from Seymour, he had wrestled at Concordia Teachers College in River Forest in Illinois. His name was Ed Carter, and he was a wrestling coach. And George Animal Steel was a coach. So Ed went with me too and worked with Steel later. But the whole thing was we was all talking about teaching school was what we was talking about. And then I didn't know who George Animal Steel was except from the wrestling magazines because we only got Dick the Bruiser wrestling, Nick Goulas wrestling, and the Sheik's wrestling out of Cincinnati. But I had to adjust those the rabbit ears or whatever it was and put them like East, and it would barely come in and stuff. But I got every wrestling magazine, and I would get every wrestling show I could. I got in the wrestling business. I wasn't even fucking smart, was never trained in a ring. So whatever I did was a miracle, but what the hell? But if I could do it, I guess you guys could too. But anyway, I sort of go off the edge, but what the fuck, right?
Yeah,
I did get hit.
You did answer the question. You did answer it was the green mist, and you did answer it was George the Animal Steel.
Okay.
And here we go. We got let's see. Ever met this guy?
I remember the name, and he was I think he was in he was French, so it was probably it was either in Montreal. No, I never met him. And Renee's dad, he was French, so he used a lot of Frenchmen.
Makes sense. Young Mighty Joe says, "Hey Rip, can you tell us anything about Mike Hammer?"
Who's Mike Hammer? I don't know who.
I
Mike
guess
Hammer
not.
is.
I guess the answer is no. Young Mighty
I don't know
Joe.
Mike
Sorry.
Hammer. If he was somebody else using somebody else's name in some territory.
Mike Hammer was the name of the detective in Mickey Spillane novels from like the 40s or whatever. That's, I don't know if it seems like a wrestler would definitely use that name, but that's the only Mike Hammer I know is from those like old detective novels.
Yeah, that was a good name, and they had to be. And when you watch them on TV, whenever you watch movies on TV and they were black and white, they were fucking awesome. Yeah. Black and white, because the shadows were always there, and they wouldn't have a camera cut every 1 second. You'd sit Humphrey Bogart in there, and he'd light a cigarette and smoke. He'd look left, he'd look right, then they'd show the picture of the moon or something, and you might have long ass camp, and the movies were just so good. But then that's how there wasn't no TV then. So what the fuck, right? But I love my old movies.
Did you know that if you take an inflation into account, that still the #1 box office of all time movies is Gone with the Wind?
Oh, really?
Yeah, based on like the money of that day versus today. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well,
100%.
Now just think, when was that made? The 60s, like, right?
Gone with the Wind? That was like 30.
No, wait a minute.
39?
Now Gone with the Wind was Judy Garland, right? Oh, no. That was frankly, Charlotte, I don't give a damn. I was thinking about, I was thinking that was Clark Gable. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking, well, at that time, there wasn't no TVs.
Right.
So it was a big deal. Everybody went to the movies on Fridays and Saturdays, and
there was only one movie to see back then, right? Like there wasn't like a multiplex where you go and see different movies. It was like this movie is showing here. That's it.
Yeah, like in Seymour, we had the Majestic Theater, which was the old big theater. Then we had the Von D on the other side of the tracks. So you could go see Frankenstein at one movie theater, and then they'd have the Wolfman at the other one. So, and then you'd always sneak your popcorn in there and your drinks in your pockets and shit because they cost too much then. But
Oh yeah.
but
Hey, Sergio and I once went to the movies and we snuck an entire large pizza in.
oh wow.
Yeah, what we did was we went to the parking lot and we got the pizza in the trunk, and then what we did was we took the tinfoil, wrapped two pieces of tinfoil, put it in cargo pockets each. So we took the 8 slices in, 4 each, 2 per pocket.
No,
That's how we did
it should have been 1, 2, 3, 6. Can you get 8? Can you get 8?
This
It was
particular pizza was 8, and
Mhm.
we take, you take the 2 pieces and you fold them on top, and then you wrap it in the tinfoil and put it in the pocket so your pants don't get greasy.
No, I would always wear the coat and whatever, even if it was summertime, and have
That
all
works
in
too.
pocket stuff with everything. And if I had a pizza, it would have been stuffed the whole box in my on my
Yeah.
chest, and I have the big old winter coat on. I said,
Yeah,
"Well,
that
hell,
was-
you guys, you know that goddamn air conditioner's so fucking cold in there. I'm freezing in there." You know.
Yeah. So thank you, Al, for confirming that. Yes, it was 1939. Damn.
Yeah,
I'm
because I
good.
was thinking of the Judy Garland, not the Judy, but anyway, it was goddamn Clark Gable. Frankly, Charlotte, I don't give a damn about
That's
the Civil
right.
War and shit, right? So I was out there. This is what happens when you come in here with notes like this.
Mhm.
Nothing on there, just talking shit. Let's see what's on the screen, and I can't see anyway.
Let's end on this one. Rip, who is your favorite OVW student, and why was it Jamin Olivencia?
Well, Jamin didn't ask that, did he?
No, I don't. Well, unless Patrick Young is secretly Jamin.
Jamin was one of the most talented motherfuckers I was ever around. And he went up to WWE, and they just shit on him. They just treated him like a piece of shit. And Jamin was so fucking good. And he told me, he said he took special ed classes. Is that right?
I think I don't know if he ever told me that. I don't know. Did he?
He took it was either special education or slow learners or whatever it was. And this motherfucker was sharp as a tack.
Yeah. I
And
mean, he was a weird guy, but he was sharp. Absolutely.
well, anybody that's makes it is weird. You're not in the norm. You're trying to do something else. You're looking at that's like looking at me when I'm training. I started out doing push pull. Then as I started doing contests, I started training every body part every day. And I've done that ever since then. Since the 1980s, I was training every body part every day, changing stuff around, changing the order. I said, you can't overtrain because I didn't lift heavy. I'm not trying to get strong. I'm trying to look good. And when you get that pump, man, what a high that is. Because Dylan Bosick, I told you about, he did pay me $50 a drink of beer because I hadn't drank any alcohol since 1986. Of course, in 1986, I was in, I think I was in Lexington, and they had to pull me off the thing. I was so, I've been doing excessive amounts of vodka and orange juice or something like that. And let's say I got out of control, but the cops knew me. They just fucking laughed and everything. But what the fuck, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Patrick is not Jamin. He just loved his work. Yeah, man, Jamin was good. I worked Jamin too. He was awesome. But that's the thing. Like you always said, Rip, you warned us. You said everything that was going to happen, and then it happened. You said that
I know. And when I
we're
tell you,
overqualified, everybody's going to hate you. They're going to bury you because they can't do what we can do, and
Right.
all that stuff. And we were just like, okay, I guess. And then, sure enough, you go up and you find out it's true. And I heard story after story after story from all the people and all these things and I was like, yeah, well, he warned you.
No, I want to tell people that because I said, if you're now, just think if you was a WWE superstar and you were a bleach blonde, they bring some other bleach blonde in, all of a sudden he's got to be my enemy, doesn't he? I was going to say, if you're a black guy, the black guys, he might take your spot. So if you're a Japanese guy, an Indian, uh, whatever, or if you're a big fat guy, they're not going to have two big fat guys unless it's going to work fat guy against fat guy with a build up, and then they'll get rid of one. So when you see a mirror of what you are, of your gimmick, you're not going to be there if you've been there a long time, unless you learn to know what to do. Unless and wrestling is nothing is stick a knife in somebody's back, getting close to the booker, getting close to the owner, and you can go your whole career, not be worth a shit. But oh, and then the girls are the worst. Girls are the worst because they see a hot girl and then she can work too. Oh my God. She'll get all them other girls to bury that girl because such is wrestling. But then again, such is any job.
That's true too.
Yeah, wrestling just mirrors the world. The main thing is who you know. If the boss loves you, he hires you, he's going to make sure that you're projected. And if I'm pushing the vet, he's the army of one. If somebody else comes in with that gimmick, well, I just get rid of the guy or treat him like shit, and then he'll leave or whatever. Because he's the army of one, and that's it. Nobody else. If he's 97 years old, he's got a 12-inch bicep, and he pumps it up, and it falls down, and he picks it up. It doesn't matter. He's my buddy, and I'm the boss, and all he's got to do is what I tell him to do. And I don't care. It's like you said, "Why?" I'd say, "Why'd you do that in the match?" They said, "Well, the booker told me he wanted that." I said, "Well, then do exactly what he says. It doesn't matter if it makes sense or not because you don't know what's going on down the line and why you might be established in something else, but they're going to show 6 weeks from now. This is why you did that." So the wrestling business, as I call it, is the world's greatest, most fucked up business in the world. But if it's something you love, what the fuck, right? I love professional wrestling. They will till I croak. So whatever about that.
All right. Well, with that being said, I hope you guys love the show. We definitely love you guys, especially all the people that sent these wonderful super chats here, such as Screaming Baboon, George Lambert, Cold Blooded, William Lynn. You lost $5 because our own channel donated, but that's okay because we made it up with more from George Lambert, Screaming Baboon. So I think we have enough for Taco Bell today. Did you roll? Oh, well, hell, Taco Bell. He can't afford Taco Bell anymore. Taco Bell's just like everything else. I got to go to the Dollar Tree. And I think we got enough for one taco for you today. I think all together you can get one.
Randy come up, Turbo and Floyd, the Outrunners. He come to the gym the other night, brought me $20-some worth of Taco Bells. And then, oh man, he just come in. Oh, so I want to say hi to Turbo and Floyd. Oh yeah, I call them Turbo and Floyd. Now, how long?
That's trying to give you the Iggy.
Huh?
That's trying to give you the Iggy. You gotta get him.
Oh, okay.
That's why he's reading the super chat.
Oh, okay. There we go. Well, I didn't know.
Wait a minute. I think there's got to be a picture of Turbo and Floyd in here.
Well, I don't know.
That's not him. That's the other one.
That's Floyd. Well, that's Turbo. It's Floyd, Turbo and Floyd. So this and that. No, Linus is screaming at me. He says, "Well, he said Vet's got to go." I said, "Well, I'm stringing."
Oh no! I just letting him know we're winding down. We got a second, but
yeah, I want
get all that stuff.
I want more questions. I want MM. I want more money. Mo, because I got none.
We got enough for a Taco Bell. But yeah, so I mean thank you guys for all the money that you did send. We had a great time. If you somehow care to hear more of me, check out the Hameen Media Group YouTube channel. Just go to that YouTube channel. Please like it. Please subscribe to it. That part's free. Oh, look at this. See? Center of the board. Last second coming in.
About the unsung legends of the South, like Troy Hippie Graham, Tommy Rich, and Louis Louis Tollet, which I'll call Louis Toilet, because the boys all said Louis Tollet. They call him Louis Toilet. I worked a program with Tommy Rich. As a matter of fact, worked the last time I worked at the Omni in Atlanta. Me and Tommy Rich were the main event in the Omni. Of course, Dusty fired me, so what the fuck, right? And then Troy Graham, he was Troy Graham, he was Troy T. Tyler, he was the Dream Machine, and all he did was he imitated Dusty Rhodes, and he'd be training at the gym at nighttime. And Troy was a good dude, and all he knew was Memphis wrestling. He loved his Memphis wrestling because this was before cable TV and stuff like that. But Troy Hippie Graham, he was a good guy. He could talk that shit. He could cut those promos. So we got the $20, the center of the board, $20 bill that the center of the board's putting in there. So we'd heard a little bit about Hippie Graham, Troy Graham, Troy T. Tyler. We heard about him. We talked about Tommy Wildfire Rich, and we talked about Louis Toilet. He was very talented, and he was a booker at a lot of the Southern territories. So I don't think I can answer it any better than that, unless we had hours and hours and hours to talk about this. Yeah, I talked about me and him having the main event in the Omni, and then Dusty fired me. Yeah, So Tommy was easy on the head, and he was always going to be fired up. Tommy was fired up. He'd have that ice white hair that when he would get juice, that son of a bitch would be boom, nothing but red, never potato. There was no violence in our matches, I guaranteed it. Somebody's talking, but I can't hear the vet now.
Is the vet on there?
Yeah. Okay. Center the board. Now I got it at $15 one, hun. Okay. Hey, Rip, I'm sure that you remember Schultz slapping John Stossel in 1984. Do you think that the news media in the South were more respectful of wrestling than the news media in the North? I just think he was that asshole John Stossel trying to get himself over. Schultz wasn't going to put up with that shit. But I remember watching that thing. We were in Canton, Ohio at the time, and I watched that son of a bitch live, and I went nuts watching it. So that was great. But it was I've probably watched that 100 times since then. And whenever I see Dr. D, I just shake my head because I said, "No, I'm scared of you. I'm afraid he'll slap me. I don't want to be slapped by a Dr. D." David Schultz, and he was trained by. Remember, we was talking about the Welches earlier.
Welches, yep.
I can't remember if it was Herb. Nick Goulas was partners with Roy Welch for a while, and then all Ron Fuller's uncles was all the shooters. All the Welches were the bad boys, and they all knew wrestling. They all knew how to make money, and they all had long careers.
All right. Well, if that is enough from you guys, we can definitely end the show here. But thank you guys for everything. Thanks, Rip, for having me back. Thanks, Von Lilas, for inviting me. And we buy the book, buy the T-shirt, do all the stuff that we said. And come on, stop this.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, you can get off there if you want.
Okay,
man.
center the board.
Rip can handle it.
What's your opinion on Eddie Mansfield? Wow. Now, a lot of time has passed, but I remember watching it live as he took a blade, disrespected my fucking business on nationwide television, took a razor blade and cut himself like that. And because what he was doing, he was shitting on the business. And I know this ain't right, but I remember that. And when I remember that, I get mad about it because it was our little gang. We was all making money, getting in, getting out, trying not to get hurt, being on TV, being superstars, hitting all the women you wanted because that's the way it was then. And then to disrespect that fucking business, that was a no-no. To me, that was a no-no. Do I hate him as much as I used to? Uh, uh, I don't know. It said time heals all wounds, but I don't know. I guess Eddie was always he's like me, did the bleach blonde gimmick, whatever, good bumps, this or that. I think he was from Columbus, Georgia, like the Oates brothers, but I'm not sure. I know he worked usually down south and stuff, and he knew what was going on. And but at that time, if somebody gets a hard on for you, they can make life rough for you. If he wasn't getting booked, I have no idea about that. But I'll try and not be so mad about it. Anyway, I imagine he started.
After that happened, I mean, a bunch of other stuff happened that completely ruined it too. So, I mean, it really nothing that could have been done about it, I guess.
Well, they got the. Wait a minute. Did you ever think that cable TV would be the death of the territories? I didn't think it would be the death of the territories, but it would. What it is, it would give you, when you only got 1 hour of wrestling a week. My God, you would set your alarm clock if it come on at 2 a.m. just because you could see it. Now there's so much wrestling on TV, you can see everything, and you get sick of it. And you see, and when you would have cable TV, you would have there's Johnny Rods, and he's working underneath as a babyface in WWF, but on the West Coast, he's JR. He's Johnny Rods in San Francisco. Now he's a bad guy, but he's wearing the same boots because it's got JR on there. So too much of anything, all of a sudden it doesn't mean as much. And now you can watch and everybody's got cable or whatever they call it on, or they can buy this and that. But it's just a different day, and you got to change with the times. And I didn't change with the times, and I'm not going to change the times. I'm going to treat it like, try and have it with the respect that it was given before, and before, people didn't know if it was shady or not. You get two good workers in there, and they said, well, and when I would go to the matches, I'm just a mark. And I'm going, well, the first 3 matches, they're always phony. What they are is they had shitty workers in there, right? And you could see through it, and you could see them talk and all this other stuff. But then when the main event's on there, hey, that son bitch is real. They busted each other open. That's like in the Eye of the Tiger match with me and Lanny Poffo. We both had color, but it was from headbutting each other real because we were marks. And the match before, Randy put us on lap to give us a babyface finish, and I got my head shaved. But Randy, he fucking gaffed, and he was a babyface against Radamias, and Randy lost and just beat the shit, got the shit man. People says, I can't believe this. But it was shock value. You give them something. So anyway.
All right. Well, let me take this moment to excuse myself. Thank you again, guys, for having me. I must bid you adieu.
Okay.
But Rip, you can keep it going because center of the board just keeps doing throwing money at the place. So
well,
I will see you guys later. Have a good one, Rip. Thank you, Vaughn.
Thanks
you,
for helping us out, Vet. You're fantastic. Say
hi.
Say hi to Yo Allah. Okay.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I'll see you guys later.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Now, see, now he's still on here, but now he's out of here. Now I'm sitting here. He says, I always hated, this is from the center of the board, the $5 baby. I always hated when Vince took talent from the territories and changed their names in WWF like he did with Dick Slater becoming the Rebel. Well, when you work for Vince McMahon, you are the character he wants you to be. And Dick Slater, as a matter of fact, I think Dick Slater did Terry Funk better than Terry Funk did Terry Funk. He copied Dick Slater to the T, and he went to high school with Mike Graham. And so he was trained in Tampa, so you know how good he was. And he was a booker in Louisiana. And that's when they had the story was when he took Sting's head and put it in the toilet, whatever. I don't know if that's legendary. most of the stuff, something happens, somebody exaggerate, and then by the time it goes around the rooms, it's a completely different story.
Elaborate on the question. How about other talent? I mean, did you like that? I hated that too. I
What's
know
that?
you said that Vince could do what he wanted, but I hated when people went to WWF and then they were just like,
Yeah,
like the Rebel or
but you made a whole lot.
Genius, or they just gave him these BS names. Like, I don't know.
Well, if you own the company, it can be whatever you want. If I own the company and Vince owned the company at that time,
Yeah, I get it. Make you hate it any less. Did you like it? Did you like it?
if I knew who the guy was, I'd say, no, this is just a name. I said, oh, no, that's Frankie the Thumper Lancaster. That ain't the Thumper. You know what I mean? That's Thunderbolt Patterson. That's not Charlie Bell or whatever name they would give him or whatever like that. Because if you was a real wrestling fan, you knew who all. Well, what the fuck, right? Okay. What would Ed the Strangler Lewis think of? I got all these questions rolling down from me. I need to get. Why? I need center of the board. No, I'm still on the. Let me roll these up here. I got too many people asking me questions, but I don't see any money stickers coming up. So yeah, okay. Anyway, this was the greatest wrestling show we did today. I think Vaughn Wireless is still going to punish me for being stupid as usual. But anyway, next week we'll be on. You got to check early because we might be on Thursday, we might be Friday. Hell, you never know around here because stuff happens.
If it's vet again, it might be 11.
Do what now?
If it's vet again, it might be 11.
Yeah, if it's vet again, it would be 11 on Fridays.
Yeah.
So we just got to see how everybody's feeling with this and that, you know. I can't remember what I'm doing anyway. So anyway, as a promoter, how was Jerry Jarrett? Okay, center of the board, the big $3 super stick or $3 post or whatever it is. Anyway, as a promoter, how was Jerry Jarrett? Jerry Jarrett did great because he had the greatest TV ratings ever in that Memphis territory. They had that live show in the morning, then they would work Memphis on Monday. So at one time, Memphis was the best drawing city in the world because they wrestled. They did over 400,000 people in 1 year in one town because they had about 8,000 people in the Mid-South Coliseum on every week. Sometimes they'd sell out. Sometimes it wouldn't be good. But he knew that market. He was a second generation himself. As a payoff man, he was a shits. But that's how he stayed in business. As he stayed in the territories longer than most of them just went out of business real fast when WWE went big time. But Jerry Jarrett, he knew the survival. He knew how to cut back. And if you wanted to stay in business, you had to cut your payoffs down. And he did that. It was not a place to really make big money, but some guys did. And when you're the boss, you can treat people special or treat them any way you want to. If they don't like it, they can get a real job, work at Walmart, or they can go try and get a job at somewhere else. So Memphis was a territory, and he did real good for years. As he broke off from Nick Goulas. Nick controlled most of the South for a long time. Then Jerry Jarrett broke off. Jeff Jarrett, he's still hanging. He's working for ADW. He's still hanging and banging, still training, still looking good. So, yeah, he's still having a good time in the wrestling business. Okay, center of the board coming back with another $5 question, baby. Center of the board, baby, says, what was your opinion on the promotional war between ICW and Memphis? Well, as most of we had a better nucleus of guys that could work. but but in the wrestling business, if you got the strongest TVs in the strongest time slot that doesn't get knocked around, it's like in Lexington. We started out on channel 62. They were on channel 18, which is the strongest station in town. We would get bopped around a lot, where all of a sudden we're on 3 in the afternoon, and the next week we're on at 11:30 at night. Where they, no matter what, they had the better deal, because when we started out promoting, hell, we were just marks, we were just wrestlers, and the only reason we started out was because Angelo Poffo couldn't work with both of the sons, Randy and Lanny, because no territory would take them, because it was all three. If they did, it was just for a little time. And he wanted to have a promotion where every day he could work, every day Lanny could work, every day Randy could work. But we had, and then we, Bob Orton Jr., Ronnie Garvin, Bob Root, Professor Boris Malenko, they all come in with us. They were the all-star wrestling out of Knoxville. They come up and become business partners with ICW with us. And that was the three Poffos and George Weingroff and me. And I didn't know fuck all. They'd ask me if I was voting on something. I usually abstain. I said, I don't know this shit. You guys do. Whatever you think's right, just do it. And I'm just going along with it. And I remember Randy would always be challenging Memphis and stuff on TV. So it would be like the ABA challenging the NBA. And that went on a lot. And whenever the ABA would play the NBA would always beat the shit out of them, because that was their chance. But the NBA guys said, oh, well, we played our scrubs because you guys are treating it like a real, because they were always exhibition games. And we just wanted to get in shape and not get hurt. So ABA, NBA, AFL, NFL, that's why they had the Super Bowl. And ICW against Jarrett's Memphis Wrestling. That was another day, and that was another dollar. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world, because I learned a lot of what to do, and I learned a lot what not to do. I got George Lambert, another Thupa sticker baby. I'm trying to scroll this up, but I ain't getting it right. So what the hell? So that must be the last one. So for here we are, Wrestling Rip Rogers. George Lambert, he did it. I told you he had the 199 Thupa sticker baby. So, and I am in that video game. So I'm is that it? Okay, that's it. So in the meantime and in between times, saying so long from Wrestling with Rip Rogers, baby. Have a good day, love. Peace.